Trump has sent Steve Witkoff, his top envoy, to negotiate with Iran. And by all accounts, there has been progress made. Although Witkoff had to walk, when Witkoff basically said that what they were going towards was basically Iran nuclear deal 2.0, he then had to walk that back after under pressure from, the neocon Israel lobby. But those talks still are ongoing, and by all accounts, they have made progress. So it sounds to me like Trump still hasn't made up his mind which way he wants to go. But he's clearly, as we've been discussing, being pulled in the direction of war by people who are extremely influential and who he listens to. And no matter what his own preferences are, we've seen, just in talking about this, we see just how powerful the pro-Israel lobby is in Washington, especially in the Trump White House.
Well, it's not just the pro-Israel lobby. The Mossad director and strategic affairs minister went to Oman to lobby Steve Witkoff, and they felt like they came away empty-handed.
Yeah.
They were kind of upset and fuming in Israeli media through their various stenographers. So the Israeli intelligence is openly applying a full court press here. And what do you think they're doing? They're feeding them documents. This is Iranian site. They will produce nuclear weapon to destroy us by Tuesday, and all kinds of phony documents. They're known for fabricating documents, whether it's to stop a hostage deal or to get the U.S. to turn up the heat on Iran. But it didn't work. It hasn't worked yet. There's another meeting on Saturday on the subject of Signalgate. One of the major takeaways was that Israeli intelligence was responsible for U.S. targeting in Yemen. Mm-hmm. The U.S. was getting a lot of Israeli intelligence. Also, Pete Hegseth revealed that the U.S. public isn't on board with this war. They don't even know what Yemen is, but that Israeli intelligence was being sent. And it makes sense because the U.S. is bombing civilian targets. They're slaughtering civilians left and right. They bombed a civilian market 24 hours ago inside Yemen. There's no military value there. That's very Israeli of them. But the Israelis were furious that it got exposed through the buffoonery of the Trump administration. And it feels to me like, and specifically Mike Waltz, and it feels to me like Mike Waltz has done something very disturbing to, this is an assault on a bakery in Yemen.
Yeah, the old city of Sana'a, the apartment buildings, grocery stores, bakeries, just like this man's saying here that they hit the bakery while people were buying bread.
Yeah.
They've also bombed, civilian infrastructure like water treatment plants. And this is now just seen as routine. The Trump administration is bombing Yemen, not only on Israel's behalf, but with Israeli intelligence. And everyone just yawns. Everyone just totally yawns.
Blowing up a civilian port that served 2/3 of Yemen with fuel and food, killing over 100 port workers. No military target, it's about causing an energy crisis and doing a kind of a Gazification process. There was no outrage in the U.S. press. All the outrage has been focused on these leaks. But I think it's important to understand the personnel situation in many ways, because the Israel lobby understands personnel as policy. People they've groomed or people that are sympathetic to them advance the policies they want. So back to Israeli intelligence being exposed, the Israelis communicated that they were furious about this, furious with Mike Waltz and the media. And what has Mike Waltz gone and done? Trump's NSC director, no thanks, for Iran and Israel, previously worked for Israeli Ministry of Defense. This is Ryan Grimm and Sagar and Jetty Scoop. And Mike Waltz is hired as director for Israel and Iran at the NSC, Merav Seren, who is an Israeli, who previously worked at the Israeli Ministry of Defense and where else? FDD, Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. And now she's inside the building. If only there were a 3-letter acronym to describe this strange phenomenon of Israel just having such a powerful role over U.S. foreign policy. Disturbing. War is even more disturbing. And with Mirav Sarin in there, we're careening towards U.S. supporting or enacting attacks on Iran on behalf of Israel, which she represents. Her brother is Omri Sarin, veteran Israel lobbyist, hangs out with all the neocons in Washington, got a job as Ted Cruz's foreign policy director. And, we call him Tel Aviv Ted, one of the top recipients of AIPAC money, does whatever Israel wants. And right behind him in his office is an Israeli asset. So that's what we've got now. And I think this has to do with Signalgate, that Mike Waltz was trying to mollify the Israelis here. Of course, he seems to support a strike. Then behind Pete Hegseth, this is getting very little attention, is someone named Steve Feinberg. This is someone who might succeed Pete Hegseth if he is ousted. This is when Steve Feinberg was appointed to his position as deputy director of the Department of Defense. John Hudson, Trump offered billionaire investor the job of deputy secretary of defense, awarding the number 2 job to a financier with investments in companies that maintain Pentagon contracts. No word yet if Feinberg accepted. He did accept. And I think that Feinberg was placed there in order to make sure that Hegseth was confirmed, to assuage the doubts of senators like Roger Wicker or Lindsey Graham, who wanted to make sure there was a steady hand from the war machine. Well, I don't know if Feinberg is a hardcore Zionist. He's someone who he's a private equity investor, meaning a vulture capitalist. And he'll come in and, do roll-ups where they create monopolies of various companies, where they buy up the companies and then roll them up into one company to create a monopoly, and then, hollow them out for profit, buy up hospitals and hollow them out, create medical groups that provide terrible service, and also buy up defense firms, buy up arms firms. Feinberg's Cerberus Capital was an owner of DynCorp. It also owns a port in the Philippines that is a major shipment point for U.S. arms and military platforms to contain China. So Feinberg is a walking conflict of interest who profits from plunder and war. And he's the figure behind Hegseth no one's heard of him. No one knows who he is. Not as colorful. You don't see him a lot. He could either rise to the top or play a very influential role here. So it's important to know who the personnel is in this debate. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, and just to stress that Dan Caldwell, who we heard from earlier, who was speaking to Tucker Carlson, where does he come from? He came from Defense Priorities, which is in DC, a very rare non-neocon think tank. And it's just incredible that someone like that can only last a few months. They're always the first ones to go, the people who aren't reflexively pro-war. And people like that being ousted, I expect we'll see more of that in the weeks to come, especially as forces that want to see a war with Iran increase their campaign.